Chapter 19. 5:45 p.m. The late afternoon sun danced on top of the glassy lake. Sam studied the inviting landscape. Yeah. That's exactly what she needed. Hello, soldier. She smiled at the dog lying so peacefully in the sun. Healthier now, his coat was thick, and although still grimy, it was no longer covered in blood. Most of it had dried and fallen off. She'd love to get him into the lake, except he still had stitches. The last thing she wanted was to have to manhandle the dog into her truck and back to the vet's office. Soldier accepted her presence as a necessity, but only as long as his independence and freedom never came into question. Soldier surged to his feet and started growling. Sam frowned. Soldier? The dog turned to face the wooded area behind the house and growled again. Sam peered into the trees but couldn't see what bothered the dog. He growled again at the bushes behind her. The woods appeared calm, should have been teeming with life. None of it showed. The energy had a peacefulness to it. Then maybe it was the energy she was projecting. Stefan's exercises had a phenomenal effect. It was what she had imagined meditation could do for a normal person. A sense of ease, comfort had slipped under her guard. It's not that she felt she could do anything, because she knew she couldn't. However, she did have a better understanding of just what she was capable of doing. The exercises were basic. She had to start at the beginning, according to Stefan. Working on seeing energy, understanding the colors around people, animals, even plants. Then to understand what the markings and colors meant. Sure, she was tired, but a good tired. Her energy muscles, something she never knew existed, had been well and truly flexed. It felt great. So many things in her life felt great, especially Brandt. She had no idea where the relationship was going, or when. All she could think about was where it would end up, in bed. At least she hoped she was reading the signals right. Delight wiggled in her belly. She hoped he felt the same way. With Soldier on guard in the late afternoon sun no longer growling, Sam headed for a swim. It was the perfect temperature for a cool, relaxing dip. Feeling physically stronger than she had in years, Sam stretched her abilities to the limit, swimming strong for 30 minutes before rolling over onto her back and floating. Calm and filled with peace, she waited for her breathing to return to a gentle rhythm. It took longer than she expected. With a groan, she realized she may have overdone it. In the aftermath of exertion, her body chilled quickly. Turning over, she fluttered her hands enough to propel herself gently in the right direction. The silkiness of the water slipped over her, making her sensitized skin come alive. The chill quickly morphed into heat as she moved through the water under the setting sun. Now if only Brandt were here with her. His hands sliding across her skin instead of the gentle waves. She stretched, reveling in the freedom of the night. Sam. Goddamn, what the hell are you doing? His yell stormed across the water. What was that? She raised her head. Get over here. Well, that was hard to miss. She rolled over in the water and searched around the house and the dock. Brandt strode toward the water. Even from that distance, she saw his grim face. Her pulse sped up at the sight of him. Even if he was mad at her. Sam, you're too far out. Too far. Sam twisted around her and realized she'd unintentionally floated out even farther. Still, she wasn't in trouble. At least not yet. Striking out strong, Sam headed in. Her energy petered out before she managed a dozen strokes. She shifted to a breaststroke and continued shoreward. When she made it to roughly 15 feet from the dock, Sam slowed and treaded water. She watched Brandt's loose-limbed stride carry him to the end of the dock, heard him yell, "Goddamn it, woman. Get your sorry ass in here." Tall and lean, he looked incredibly good, with a gentle wind ruffling his hair. Moses whined beside him. Now, If only she hadn't spent the last hour imagining him in the water with her. Sorry, buddy. It's not you I'm mad at, it's her. Moses sat down. Sourly, Sam watched their interplay. Moses may not have anything to worry about. Obviously, Sam couldn't say the same thing. She felt like hissing. Damn it. She was swimming in the nude. 6:55 p.m. Brant couldn't believe it. The last time he'd seen her, she'd been caught in a heavy vision and experiencing huge blood loss. Now she was out there swimming in the middle of the damn lake. She'd have been better off relaxing and regaining her strength. He watched as she struggled the last few yards. She was worn out, but if he jumped in to help her, she'd be royally pissed. Go figure. He scowled at the dog at his feet. Even Moses knew better than to swim right now. Jesus. She needed a babysitter. She was as bad as his mother. Watching Sam swim closer, he realized he'd probably overreacted here. Swimming would help rebuild Sam's strength and endurance. Exercise had many benefits, and as long as she didn't overdo it, then swimming was a good way to go. Somehow that logic didn't matter because he was still pissed. Scared. He stopped suddenly, hands fisted on his hips. And all because he was worried about her. He blew his breath out in a gust. Oh God, this was getting bad. The balmy evening breeze wrinkled the water before smoothing it flat again. He frowned. The cabin was a long way from everything. Not only that, if she were to run into trouble, no one would know for days. Not until she didn't show at work. Damn it. His frown deepened. The bushes rustled behind him. Instinctively he dropped and spun around. Deep yellow eyes glowed in the darkness. That damn watchdog. Hello there, soldier. How are you feeling? I see you're moving better. Keeping his voice even and calm, he kept a wary eye on the dog's reactions. He wasn't exactly growling. On the other hand, neither was he wagging his tail with joy. The two males glowered at each other. Both silent and watchful. Both waiting for the other to move. Brant knew better than to break his gaze first. The alpha male was the one who held the gaze the longest. If Brant were to ever get close to Sam, then the watchdog had to accept Brant's presence. Splashes alerted him to Sam's approach. Keeping his eyes trained on the dog, he called out, "Are you okay, Sam?" She coughed gently, then again a bit stronger. "I'm fine." Her voice was reedy and thin. "I'm just getting out now." Brant stared at the dog, relieved. "You sound exhausted. You should never have gone for a swim. Or at least not for so long," he admonished. "Like I'll listen to you," she scoffed. "You're arguing with a dog." Brant started. Indignantly he said, "I am not." Sam brushed past him, an old worn army blanket wrapped around her body, droplets of water flying off with every step. She deliberately walked between the two males. Both sets of eyes immediately switched to the distraction. Brant swallowed. Her blanket snuggled around her curves, shifting to accommodate the gentle movements as she walked. Water had soaked into the thin material, making it almost transparent. Brant's imagination fired up. The blanket hung loosely down the center of her spine. No straps were on her shoulders. He swallowed. The blanket cuddled her bottom, just barely covering the gentle curves. He couldn't see any sign of a bathing suit. That tantalizing thought both enraged and delighted him. Didn't she realize that anyone could have come down here? This lady was just asking for trouble. Yet the thought of all that female flesh floating sensuously free in the cool water was a huge turn-on. And gave him an intimate insight into her true character. Watching her walk ahead of him, and not knowing whether or not she was nude, was an even bigger aphrodisiac. The bushes rattled again. Soldier, now in front of Sam, turned. His lip curled, his spine humped up, and the hair on the back of his neck stood straight up. Samantha stopped. Brant instinctively freed his gun, staying close to her as he peered into the woods. "What is it?" he whispered. Sam shrugged, her eyes searching the woods. "I can't tell." Her voice was low, balanced. "Soldier doesn't like it, and neither do I. Something doesn't feel right." Brant scanned the area for anything abnormal. He didn't know what she meant, but he couldn't help agreeing that all wasn't as it should be. Sam hurried to the cabin, running up the porch steps. Brant followed at a slower pace, a wary eye searching around him. Soldier growled and lunged into the woods. "Soldier, no." Sam watched and listened as the noises trailed off to the left. She turned to Brant. "I'll get dressed, then go after him." Brant couldn't stop his eyes from following that perfectly formed backside, highlighted by damp circles in the blanket as she ran inside and climbed the stairs. With a shaky breath, he turned to search the twilight. The evening sun was setting, throwing long shadows across the yard. Brant saw no sign of Soldier. Moses sat on the top porch step, staring off in the same direction. He wasn't growling, but his tail wasn't wagging either. Sam came running down the porch steps, still tucking her shirt inside the waistband of her old blue jeans. Over her arm was the inevitable oversized sweater. Her skin sported a blue tinge. She held a leash in her hand. "Damn it, you're cold. Stay inside and get warm. I'll go after him." Sam shook her head. "I'm going. He doesn't know you, and he won't come if you call." Turning around, she spied Moses at the edge of the bushes. "Moses, come here." Moses trotted forward obediently. Sam snapped on the lead. "Only one dog missing at a time, please. Let's go find Soldier." Brant scoffed. "Moses won't find him, and Soldier won't come if you call either." She shot him a dirty look before walking past him into the early night. "Soldier," Sam called, looking around. But the wooded darkness had swallowed him completely. They left the porch and headed across the lawn. Howls and screams split the air, followed by a couple quiet spits. Sam ran forward and stopped. A heavy crashing through the woods could be heard for a moment, before dying off in the distance. "Jesus," she whispered, her hand at her throat. Her heart smashed in her chest. "Brant, were those human screams and gunshots?" "Maybe. You stay here with Moses. I'll check it out." Brant drew his gun higher and raced into the woods. The trees stood thick together. He headed in the direction of the shots. The silence blanketed everything, except his own passage. Leaves and twigs crushed beneath his feet. The wind started. Branches swished, sending whispers through the night. Brant moved quickly through the area. Nothing. He circled around to Sam. "Any sign?" she called out to him. "No. Whoever or whatever it was is gone." Once again, a few feet from the porch steps, Brant stopped and looked around again. Ignoring Brant's protests, Sam took a couple steps into the darkness. "Soldier?" Brant came to stand beside her. "Can you see him?" "No, but he has to be here." She spun to the left. "Wait. What was that?" A small whine sounded several hundred feet away. "Soldier? Soldier. Come here, boy." Twigs broke and the brush rustled with movement. Darkness had descended quickly. Sam backed up a couple steps. "Soldier, come here, boy." Peering through the darkness, she thought she saw something move. "Soldier," she whispered, "is that you?" Soldier limped toward her. Sam ran and put her arms around him in a quick hug. She coaxed him forward. "Come on, boy. Time to go home." "Is he hurt?" Brant surveyed the large animal. The damn thing had to weigh at least 120 pounds. Uninjured and cooperative, Brant might be able to move him. Injured and cranky? No way. "I don't know." Sam gently ran her hands over the dog's limbs, ignoring the warning growls. "Come on, soldier. Let's get you inside." Once on the porch, they saw fresh blood on his side. "Damn it, soldier." Sam checked his wound, accidentally touching a sore spot. Soldier spun around, his lip curled, an ungodly howl erupting from his throat. Brant trained his gun on the injured animal. "Sam, get back." The evening stilled. "Don't touch him. He's dangerous like this." Soldier turned slowly toward Brant, then his spine arched and the howl turned menacing. Sam shuffled behind Brant. Soldier had eyes only for Brant. She said in a quiet, calm voice, "Brant, I think it's the gun, put it away." "Are you nuts? He could attack. The gun's upsetting him." "It's easy to check my theory. Just put the gun away." Brant snorted. "I've seen too many aggressive animals to do that." He kept his eyes on the dog, sparing a quick glance at Sam. "Let's just try it, please." He stared at the dog for a long moment, then slowly lowered the firearm and slipped it behind him. Out of sight but not away. The dog watched every movement. The growling lessened ever so slightly. "I wonder." A sudden impulse rolled around inside Brant's head. Using hand signals, he ordered the dog to sit. Soldier howled. Brant repeated the command. Soldier howled louder. Brant made the command sharper, harder. Silence. Then, in a shuffling movement, Soldier slowly lowered his haunches. Brant shook his head, then gave the command to heel. Wanting the dog to walk at his side was safer than having Sam coax him up to the house. This time, Soldier obeyed on the first go-around, the movement slow and awkward, but he did it. "Brant? He's been well trained. I don't know to what extent, though. I can try some more commands. From the look of him, I'm almost ready to suggest he's been a police dog in his past." "Really?" Sam stared from one to the other. "Do you really think so?" "I think he's a trained guard dog, and chances are good that his training was more formal. It's possible he didn't work out and never finished the training." Once at the cabin, the slow-moving party made it inside. Brant ordered the dog to lie down. Soldier, small growls from deep in his throat, grudgingly obeyed. Sam quickly checked out Soldier's wounds again. Brant and Soldier glared at each other. "It's not too bad. Looks like he ripped a stitch or two, and he's limping. That could just be his old injuries, reacting to the unexpected chase in the woods." Sam gave the dog a quick hug. "Poor boy." Brant snorted. "Why's that?" The vet thought he'd been abused. As far as Soldier's concerned, it's people who aren't to be trusted. Sam paused for a moment, sniffed the air, bent closer to Soldier's back, then raised her head. "Did someone just shoot my dog?" 7:18 p.m. Brant sat on the porch steps, speaking with his mother. Sam studied him for a long moment, waiting for his call to end. Not too long afterward, he said goodbye to her and joined Sam in the kitchen. "I just poured you a cup of tea." Sam handed the cup to Brant. "How are the Colonel and your mother?" He glanced at her in surprise. "No change." "So can we talk then?" At his confused look, she added, "Deputy Brooker. Remember?" "What?" "Oh, right. He's here. As I told you earlier, your Deputy Brooker came to see me today." "Oh God." Sam sat down on the kitchen chair, hard. She didn't need to look in a mirror to know that all the color had leached from her face. "He's been in town for a couple days already." Brant sat opposite her. "I know it's easy to jump to conclusions, but we don't know any more than that yet." It was too much. Sam had hoped to hide her history, had hoped that past events wouldn't be dragged into her future. Damn it. "Keep in mind he doesn't know where you live." Hope unfurled deep inside, then she focused on what had just happened. She searched Brant's face. You're dreaming, she scoffed. He was probably the one doing the shooting out there tonight. She added, I have no illusions. He'd kill me any time he had a chance. Brant studied her face. She stared calmly back. If there was one thing he needed to believe, it was that Brooker was slime, dangerous slime. All right, I can see you believe that. He said you stole something from his family. Information of some kind. Any idea what that's all about? Brant's supportive gaze gave her strength. She laughed, a broken sound that made him wince. I didn't steal anything. Don't you see? The information he thinks I have is what I picked up from him. My psychic abilities told me a lot. That's what he's afraid of. That I know too much. Pain knotted at the base of her spine, shooting up through her temple. She shivered. And he's right. I do. Brant mulled this over. She stared blindly out the dark kitchen window. Remember my car accident? The one where you were injured, or the one where you saw Louise Enderby die? No, the first one, where I almost died. That was him. He caused my accident, he tried to kill me.